Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Rachel from Acquia. Today's webinar is called Starting Right, How Data Doesn't Have to Be Such a Mountain to Climb. So we have with us today Yvonne, the Managing Director of Clever Age, who is based in Hong Kong, and Tony, our pre-sales lead of Acquia Asia, who is based in Singapore. So if you have any questions for the presenters, please submit them in the Q&A tab, and they will answer them at the end of the session. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Yvonne. Yvonne, please.
Yes, everybody can hear me well? Is that okay, Rachel?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Yvonne.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, really good. Thanks a lot. I'm guessing people will join, one after the other. But we have to start. Apologize for that. Yes, so I'm Yvonne Lerner, Managing Director of Clever Age, based in Hong Kong. Clever Age, in just 2 minutes, is a digital tech agency founded in 2001 in France. And we have set up the Asian business about 7 years ago that I manage, with office in Hong Kong, Singapore, and the development center in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh. And Clever Age has about 300 people, 310 people precisely today, and doing both advisory and consulting, which represent 30% of our activities, and 70% is project execution and project implementation. So we claim to be the architect and the builder as well of your digital landscape. Okay, so we're going to cover a large topics today, mostly around customer data platforms with our partner Acquia and Agile. But first, we will start with the challenges that Asia retail industry is facing. So and what we are seeing in the markets from trend, both B2C and B2B. We will further explain what is triggering the need of migrating your maybe old CRM and bringing up modern tools for consolidating that 360 view of the customer and be data driven. So we will cover some of the pain point and driver points, and we'll hand over to Tony. We will give you some practical use case of implementations of the CDP platforms, Agile, and what has been the ROI from those implementations. Okay, so this is a slide which I think is not a surprise any longer for everyone, but we can still feel the pain of this massive COVID-19 pandemic. Nobody could ever expect and could anticipate that from various angles. So we still have in Asia few people confined, a lot of shop closed, revenue down, but we've seen other side of the COVID that are accelerating some of their particularly online and digital trends that we are going to see later. Digital transformations, for a lot of people say, okay, that's, hype, that's far away, that's not for me. We'll do that later. My offline shop is working fine. And some others, put digital at the center of the strategy and are benefiting from now where the others are in chapter 11, phases now trying to save the company. So we will see that with a couple of examples later on. Okay, some of the pain we've seen around the regions is, I think, not a surprise, I guess, for whether you're in B2C or B2B. Revenue dropping, challenges to manage, the workforce. I think a lot of people had salary cut around the regions or been retrenched, and in some of their economy where the government have protected to a certain level, I think the companies and workers, we're going to see less and less subsidies from governments, and the real economy eating the ground with unfortunately and restructurations from a lot of industries in Europe as well. So supply chain delivery, a big challenge during those COVID-19s. So the B2B players on the call, I think, will definitely, as well as the B2C, have faced that and will be still facing that challenge of sourcing and distributing and delivering the goods. Competitions, that's links to the previous slides, where pure online player that were ahead of the pack, I think, are benefiting from these COVID-19 pandemics, and others are thinking, we were late, but we want to go a bit faster to be online for Christmas. So we have a fair amount of clients say, I don't want to, go for a 3 years roadmap, but I want something up and running in the next 6 months. I've missed, the train, and the COVID-19 has taught me that I need to be online with my product catalogs to be able to eat, the Christmas periods, in December. So that's, and we will see a big change of mindset. People have accepted to work remotely. People have accepted, to shop online. Even, country like Hong Kong, where e-commerce have always been lagging behind, I think, some of the neighboring country. We've seen, some marketplace like Hong Kong TV Mall, picking up in terms of traffics, GMV, etc. We'll see the two icons on the top. I think a lot of closure. I think people in retail say there will be 15, 20, 25% of my shops that will close, and I will redirect, some of their capex to and opex to the digital. So for sure, we're going to see some closure. We are witnessing a lot of company, particularly in the US, going Chapter 11. Doesn't mean I think they will go under, but they need to restructure themselves. Macy, J.Crew, Neiman Marcus, etc., etc. So there will be probably from those player shift of offline revenue to the online. Might not be 100% of that, but a significant accelerations to online. And I put the Hermes logo on the top right, because in China they call that the vengeance, returns to online and offline buying. People were frustrating not to be able to buy goods for so many months, and they went back and rushed to the shops in Shenzhen and Shanghai, etc., and creating a huge sales on the luxury goods. Since the pandemic, you can see that change of lifestyle diagram a lot. Shopping online is on the top of the mind of many people. They don't want to go to physical shops. They don't want to touch the cash, etc., etc. Who is winning in this? You will see on the top left that it took nearly 10 years to reach penetrations of e-commerce as a percentage of retail sales in the US to hit about 15-16%. And in only a few weeks at the beginning of this year, the penetration of e-commerce as a percentage of retail sales has gained nearly 10 points, even more than 10 points. So you could see that the curve is exponential, and that's the direct impact of what's happening right now. On the bottom left, Singapore retail sector. That's just one example of course, a lot of drop in sales in non-essentials goods, I will say, for now. Luxury watches, etc., have been very badly impacted. But you see the food and distributions going up, and that's the trend we're seeing across Europe and across Asia. A lot of activities in digital happening across that specific industry, food and distributions. People still need to eat, people need to order, people wants to be visible, so a lot of digital activity around that. On the top right, Amazon. I think I don't have to spend too much time. We know how Amazon is benefiting from this pandemics. And on the top right, bottom right, I just wanted to mention one of the marketplace in Hong Kong TV Mall, for people who are familiar with the company. You could see, I think, some numbers where the GMV has, increased by close to 170%, since last year. We'll see the average basket size also more than double, and the number of transactions as well since last year. So Hong Kong, as we all know, I think is a particular case due not only to the COVID but also the protest we had last year. And so what's gonna probably happen in the next few years now is a shift of spending towards the online and the commerce. We see that in B2C for sure. We see that in B2B as well, where people want to automate, the relationship with the distributors, the reseller. They want to increase the ordering capability, inventory visibility. That's definitely a big trend in B2B. We see some activities around not only B2C or B2B product, but also services. Marketplace around B2B services, for instance, etc. And I mentioned, food and distribution is a big one. Another one that's going to benefit is definitely health and telemedicines, remote diagnosis, remote consultations, and etc. etc. So a big activities and winners from that pandemic. Education and e-learning is just huge. I just did a seminar with the Hong Kong UST in Hong Kong. In a lot of schools, went online to continue to provide, I think, the educations, and most of the exam were online. In the UK, same. I think some of the schools were reopened, but some other will just postpone until January. So they will continue to provide a mix on online and physical educations to a lot of kids. And same thing happening for the corporate sectors, where a lot of webinars such as this one, a lot of learnings is happening online and shifting online. Robotic and automations, whether it's a self-service to a person, or is a cleaning or delivery to a hotel, we'll see a big boom in robotic and automations. And in terms of trend, whether it's because people don't want to touch coins and money, or the accelerations of contactless payments, is definitely a huge trend, whether it's by QR code, online payment, contactless payments. So, and Tony, you might want to add something on this.
Yeah, that's right, Yvonne. So yeah, and especially on the last slide, this one on the last slide, it's talking about that shift in the customer behavior, and it's just showing that offline is still absolutely relevant, and not just online that we're talking about. So you talked about supply chain problems, people wanting to have the contactless payment. So different types of behavior, but we still got to remember we're very much still in an online world. As well as that offline as well, that's still absolutely relevant. So when we're talking about data, we've got to always remember that offline is still 100% relevant, and we can't just take online into isolation on here. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. I think even if we're seeing probably, I don't know if it's 10, 15, 20% shops rationalizations, in some other countries, we'll still have 80% of the shop remaining, and the omni-channels and data collections and data activations across both offline channels and online will be key. And we see an acceleration of mobile payment, accelerations of clienteling apps, loyalty program across both online and offline.
That's right. And we're also going to see that consumer or customer expectation of wanting to be connected more in a digital way with those offline processes. So it's just making life a lot more difficult in terms of being able to deliver that for that customer experience, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. Thanks. Some of the key drivers and data pain points. Data-driven marketing, is a big challenge for a lot of companies. We've seen getting just the profile, enriching the profile, getting the right informations, engaging the customers consistently across the different touch points is very challenging for a lot of clients. Some of them are a little bit more advanced. And the reason is challenging today, or is very manual. I think we see a lot of campaigns and limitations around campaign because of the manual work that needs to be done, data extractions, and of course, due to those manual tasks, less campaign could be launched, less targeted, polluting mailbox or mobile, and less segmented as well. So ROI, I think, could definitely be improved, and we've seen that in a couple of clients that we're working with by implementing this. So one of the key obstacles on the bottom left is the siloed data. Even if the people have started the digital transformations after a couple of years, they still have storing data offline in their POS or clienteling apps or offline loyalty program. And they're doing it, with their customer call centers on different, sources, and they're doing it on the e-commerce, and they have a WeChat mini program, for example, plus the offline transactions. So these are not coming together. So impossible to get an integrated view of your customer across that. Very challenging, and the cost of integrating and collecting those data is quite significant. So a bit of a challenge. Actionable insight. Traditional CRMs, are very good to collect your structured data. When you come to unstructured data, when you come to behavioral data, is for a lot of cases not very well done. Still a lot of work. Difficult to enrich your profile from the basic information you have collected to all the way to transaction, loyalty, behavioral data. So the enrichment of profile is an ongoing and continuous exercise. Dynamic segmentations. If you're not capable of dynamically segmenting for a better targeting and personalizations and contextualizations for cross-category marketing, cross-brand, etc., is an issue. We've seen predictive modeling, either to reach audience like that you already have through the DMP. So anticipation of behavior. If somebody's going to leave, I think loyalty program is important to have those insights and have the right, predictive model. A lot of optimization advertising budget as well could be done with proper dynamic segmentations and those actionable marketing insight. Some of the data points, this is a high-level summary of issues we have consolidated across different consulting work and implementations we've done with a client around Europe and Asia. That is driving the need to upgrade your previous legacy systems to CDP. One of the key ones is the poor legacy system capability. Manual task, whether you're doing data extractions, whether you're doing campaign, reporting, etc., still a lot of manual tasks, and often the need to call the IT teams to be able to launch a new campaign or activate a new loyalty program, which not supposed to do. Expensive data integration cost. So that's definitely one of the key issues. If you need to, every time you want to integrate a new data points, get an army of people that cost the arm to do that, that's very slow, very costly, and not very efficient. So capability to manipulate data to and from the platforms, that's really key, and not really feasible today with the current ecosystems. and no or little data-driven marketing, decisions today to increase the reach, manage the ad budgets, contextualizations, personalizations of marketing campaign. The second one is difficulty to access, the data, no real-time data ingestions. So because maybe using a POS, that a very traditional one, and it takes like the end of the day to upload your POS data to your middleware and the middlewares to your platforms. So that's a costly integrations and definitely not a real-time or near real-time data ingestions. Siloed distributed informations, I mentioned that earlier. Low value operation task. So a lot of workflow process are manuals today, where it can definitely be automated. A lot of CDP platforms have these workflow engines that will definitely help for each of the contributors of the chains to validate either the consolidation of the profile, enrichment of profile, dynamic segmentations, etc., and exposure of those data to the different marketing stack. Personalization and user experience. I won't say no segmentations, but little segmentation, definitely, very few do dynamic segmentations before exposing the data to the marketing, suite. Disconnected cross-channel offline online experience. We mentioned that between, physical shops, which have maybe a POS, digital panel, clienteling apps, loyalty program, not connected at all to the omnichannel layer. Whether we talk about inventory, order management, that should be part of their end-to-end capability of your ecosystems and the data that are collected along the way. Poor identity resolutions. That's a key issue here. If you have 7 or 8 different touch points, and for each of those touch points, you are connecting through your WeChat ID, through your email, through your loyalty ID, through the mobile ID, and you don't have a reconciliations or identity resolution capability, is going to be very, very difficult to manage, and have this holistic view of your clients and be able to do proper marketing activities. Data governance. Consentment management is a huge topic today due to data regulations, whether it's PII and GDPA, GDPD, California law, or GDPR. It has to be, built by design in your CDP, same as securities. You cannot just, add this on the top of your CDP. So most of the modern CDP will manage that, and by default. Just to explain, and not to explain, but just to share with you the complex process of acquiring and collecting data from the different sources and touch points. If we go clockwise, starting on by the top left of the slide, you have the personal data, name, surname, email, which is always called, I think, the PII informations, which is restricted to export or need to get a consent from people. And you move, right to the transactions, e-commerce, purchase, store, vouchers, etc. If you have a loyalty program, you're adding a certain layers of, additional informations. Third-party data could be also, a lot of shop opening, flight numbers, weather patterns, etc., that impacting some of the purchasing behavior. Campaign, user-generated content, progressive profiling. That's very important to get the sign-off of additional leads and prospect, instead of asking a long and painful, forms to fill up. Marketing preferences, opt-in, opt-out, etc. General preferences around brand categories, colors, based on your past purchasing behavior. Profiling, segment, customer life value calculations, affinity clusterings, personas. So that's a lot of scoring that could be done, and value-based calculations around, the cost of acquiring a customer, cost of maintaining, and the value that he brings. Of course, geolocations data and analytic data. So that's a huge amount of data that will contribute to the enrichment of your profiles once you have ingested the data from different sources. Just the landscape of CDP. I think there's only 2-3 slides, and I will hand over to Tony. This is an important slide because a lot of players claims to be a CDP players. Unfortunately, I call that imposter. If you come from the DMP background, you've been playing with third-party data, all your life, and you claim, I think, to be a CDP, where CDP, are a first-party data to provide consistency, enrichment of that data along the way. So, will be challenging in DMP. Some of the CRM player have a very close ecosystems as well. So, be able to have a complete suite of 200 or 300 APIs or connectors to ingest data from any inputs, and same way expose the data to a different marketing suite. They will never be able to do it, and they will never be able and want to do it because they have a close CRM ecosystems and they want to protect that and drive, all the transactions towards that ecosystems to charge you, million of licenses. And there is other players coming from the tag management background and others from the marketing automation. Some of them have succeeded, I think, to move to the CDP, but I really would like you to be aware about those people that claim, they are CDP player. That slide shows you on the left-hand side the different solutions of the market, CDPs, data warehouse, CRM, DMP, etc. And what does those platform covers. So I will not go through, I think, every single line and columns of the slide, but this is an important one. First columns know the data or unknown data. CDP can do both. When you come to CRM can, of course, collect, known data, but unknown data related to behavioral, visitors, etc. Social, media, definitely not. Be able to select and store semi-structured and structured data. CDP will do it. Some of them, I think, platform will do it, but CRM does not, DMP does not. The granularity and the flexible data from different sources to obtain, I think, your customer single view. That's also very well done by CDP. Real-time or near real-time injection access. DMP does it for third-party data and mostly cookies, but not the others. Out of the box, analytics and capability. That's something, is done to some extent, to the CDP, or people might want to decide to do that with third-party platforms. Market independence from IT. So that's important, that a lot of marketing activity will reside within the CDP and no longer needs the interventions of an IT to extract data, do reportings, campaign, etc., etc. Available to all outside solutions. So this is the suite and the flexibility of connectors, API, webhooks that you will be able to have at your disposal, both from the ingestion of data from different sources to the exposure of your data once data are ready to be exposed to your marketing suite. Just for the people who are not familiar with the CDP, CDP does 3 main things. Ingestion of data, so capability to ingest data from various sources, online, offline, real-time, near real-times, etc. The second is unifications, so cleansings, unifications of data. We've seen that across the different ID. So very, very important to normalize the data, cleanse, enrich, and get you unique customer profile at that stage. and activations. Once you have this profile unify and enrich, you can activate with dynamic segmentations and marketing campaigns, advertisings, within the CDP, or expose those data to your existing EDM marketing tools, personalization, contextualization tools, advertising tools, etc., etc. So that's the three main functions that the CDP does, and Tony will come back to that in later stage in the presentation. What are the key strategic pillars of the CDP? I'm going to maybe repeat a little bit myself, but we have, from the different CDP landscapes we've been looking at and implementing solutions for clients, we have seen maybe 7 or 8 key pillars that a CDP needs to have by design. Real-time ingestions, definitely. Unifications and data management. Profile management and enrichment of that profile. Dynamic audience segmentations. Predictive modeling. This is important to have either a library of models within the CDP that you can use for upsells, cross-sells across categories of product, or either you might want to build as well your own algorithm and inject those algorithms into the CDP to do so. So that predictive modeling, I think, is real and happening in some of the CDPs. Real-time behavioral analysis, marketing campaign and ad campaign activation measurements, and data privacy and security by design for those platforms. So those are the 7, 8 strategic pillars. I have much more information on each of those pillars, but please contact me or Clever Age for further information if you are interested. I will now hand over to Tony to switch to the Acquia platforms. Tony, do you want to take over from now?
Yeah, thank you very much, Yvonne. So yeah, just as an overview, Yvonne's already talked about the CDP side of things, some of the challenges and key points we're talking about. But in a nutshell, the CDP and what we're talking about with Acquia's Agile 1 CDP platform, which is part of our digital experience platform, is that basically you're bringing in a number of these touch points, both online and offline. It could be point of sale, email, call center, website, different analytics, third-party data, from different partners, your own marketing lists, etc. But then the Agile 1 platform gives you this, or the CDP, gives you these dashboards, gives you the insights, gives you the data matching, etc. It's that engine that brings it all together to make it usable, and then usable both online and offline, things like call center, outbound marketing, digital advertising, personalization, and these insights. So this is an overview of what the Agile 1 platform is providing, but I want to talk about how some of our customers got started with the Agile 1 and our CDP, and where they saw real value from it and real return on investment, because they need to start somewhere, just as well you do, and what they faced and what they actually solved. So I'm going to share and swap over to my on my screen. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, hopefully you should be able to see this now. So it's about focusing your start when you're moving forward. So our customers, the successful ones, they looked at the problems they were trying to solve. They looked at where the gaps in their knowledge of the customer journey was. If they were trying to sort out or fix a problem with the customer journey and get the benefits from there, they looked at the gaps in that knowledge. So it's all about the data we are talking about. But also, and this goes across the board for all of the things that our customers are trying to solve, us included and all of us, is, do you know why you are doing something? If you're going to spend resources on doing something, if it's a campaign, if it's a new product, opening a new store, implementing new technology, you've got to understand why you are doing it. And this is where data can really, really help you with that. So one of our customers, this is Wix. So this is in the UK. They are kind of like a Home Depot. They provide things like consumers and B2B, large warehouses where people can go and buy tools, utilities, things like this, bathroom furnishings and stuff. And they had a real problem with operational efficiency. As you can see from this diagram, before Agile 1 column, it talks about pulling in a customer list for direct mail. This was taking them 2 weeks. With Agile 1, they were able to bring this down to 10 minutes. Now, when you want to be able to react to a market, things change, new promotions come out. We know that many companies work in silos. Someone could come out of a promotion or a new project, a new product, or a new store opens, something like that. Sometimes the marketing department or a different team could be the last to know, or they're just not informed, so they need to react quickly. So with Wix were finding that they were too slow to be able to react, too slow to get things up and running, and too slow to be able to execute on what they needed. So we can see that before Agile 1 column, they were either too slow, or there's even areas which are not possible. So with Agile 1, they were able to really increase these operational efficiencies. So internal CRM team can access a customer profile. This was not possible before, but with Agile 1, they were able to get direct access to see this in real time. So this is just one example of our customers that just by connecting data, not necessarily being able to run advanced machine learning and things like that, but just by starting off by connecting different data inputs across their business units, they were able to really increase operational efficiency with the Agile 1 CDP. We have a customer called Archerlink in Turkey. So they basically a retailer for goods across Turkey, lots of online as well as offline. Their goal was to increase upsell conversions and improve customer experience through that. So they still have a lot of offline cold calling and things like that within their business and culture. And before Agile 1, agents were only able to had visibility into the purchase history and previous communications with the call center, but they couldn't personalize that conversation when trying to upsell. So they could only see that someone had bought and if someone had spoken to them before. So with Agile 1, they were able to bring in the data from the previous call histories and purchase history, but then able to use that data and integrate using their open APIs that we have with their call script tool. And they were able to then bring in 8 different fields into that call script tool and able to customize that call script. So they were able to onboard and bring in call center people without huge amounts of training and provide a personalized script to them based on that data. So they were able to start off with just 2 integration points from previous history on the call center and previous transaction history, and then providing an integration to provide that personalized script. So started off nice and easily, but be able to get immediate benefits with the offline conversions. And the results, they were able to increase those conversions from the outbound call centers by 100% from those campaigns. We have Moosejaw. So these guys are in the United States, but a retail, obviously retail goes global. So you should be able to resonate with this if you're in retail, but they have promotions going on. They wanted to get ROI, but Moosejaw had a problem that they were batch blast blanket discounting to everyone. And unfortunately, this kind of lowered their branding in that customers just expected discounts all of the time. It eroded the value of the brand, really. So then what they wanted to do was improve their customer spend and the campaign ROI by identifying the right discount level. So rather than just spreading out discounts to everyone, that sort of shotgun approach, they wanted to give the right discounts to the right people. So why discount if you don't need to with someone? So with Agile 1, they were able to bring in that transaction history, especially in the online at the beginning, the transaction history, and then able to run the algorithms within the Agile 1 CDP, and then be able to say, okay, we want to then personalize the right promotions for the right people. So if someone has the likelihood to buy is high, then they will give the full price. So if someone is willing to pay, they identified these people and they will give them full price. They won't give a discount. If someone has a medium to high likelihood to buy, they'll give a mild discount, and then so on through that. And it results in this: they were able to increase their margins from their online sales by 30%. That is a huge number. So they just started off with the CDP just by bringing in that transaction data, be able to run the algorithms, models on them, and then be able to do the output as a personalization, the segmentation, to say, okay, these type of customers will have this type of offer. So started off very simply, but able to get great results from there. Tumi, so just how far they can go with that. Tumi actually went a little bit further. Tumi, as you know, do high-end bags and things like that, now part of the Samsonite group. They couldn't understand the impacts of the multi-channel campaigns that they were running. So again, they were pushing out sort of blanket promotions, etc. They couldn't optimize that discount strategy, and one channel was easily cannibalizing another channel. It was a big problem for them. But they were able to then bring in the different channels, that data. So not just the online transactions now, they were now bringing across data from their offline channels, from their email marketing campaigns, from their online ad spend campaigns. So bringing these data together, so going to a next level of bringing that data together, and then also bringing in point of sale, warranty repair data, giving that more of that 360 view. So next step beyond what Moosejaw were doing. So when you go further, they were able to see results like getting growing full price sales by 28.5% while cutting 40 promotional days from their calendar. So rather than doing that blanket promotional and discounts, like Moosejaw had that same problem, they were able to then say, okay, define the segments and say, we want to be able to not necessarily offer a promotion if I don't need to. And they were able to bring those sales up, which also really helped their brand. So rather than being seen as a discount brand, they've seen as more premium, as Tumi wanted. Moving away from that heavy discounting strategy, grew their sales overall by 6.7%, 30% boost in e-commerce sales. They were able to personalize using that data, make it much more relevant for the customer. They were able to increase 13.3% in gross margin growth. That's amazing. And then the operating margin growth was boosted by 23.6%. Not only were they getting better sales, but they were getting more efficient as well. And all of that time, they were sending 40 million fewer emails. So that's not just a cost saving. That also means that you're actually talking to they're talking to their customers much more relevantly. This was a huge win for them, and it actually elevated their brand much better with the help of Agile One and Acquia. And then lastly, from a starting off point of view, I wanted to talk about Clarks. So we know Clarks, obviously a shoe retailer all around the region and the world. And Clarks wanted to understand if online advertising was influencing the purchases within the store, because the online and offline, there was a huge disconnect, like with many businesses. So before Agile One, they had a good understanding of how the ads influence or online sales. Of course, that's quite easy. You have your Google ad, you set up a gold trigger on your purchase, and you can connect them together and get the attribution. But they had no idea of how that attributed to the in-store sales. It's a very common problem. With Agile One, and this was where they got started by bringing in 2 sets of data points. So they were able to bring in the Clarks store transactions, so bringing in that point of sale information into Agile One, and secondly, bring in the data from Criteo, which is a platform they were using for their online ad inventory and sales. So be able to correlate that data and bring that in. They could associate it with their display campaigns, the product and category, and then within an attribution window. So they had an attribution models that said, okay, if we have an ad go out, then we correlate it to a particular sale of a particular product and category. So then moving forward, they were then able to say, okay, our results. They now know that only 2% of offline purchases were influenced by ad campaigns, And they were able to adjust those to increase online influence, offline influence. So they were able to learn from this and say, okay, we're going to be able to adjust our adverts and things, and they're able to attribute 15% more revenue to ad campaigns. So they made some assumptions before, but they were off by 15% on there. They were able to attribute 15% more revenue to the campaigns, and that gave a much better business case in moving forward to the marketing teams, and allowed them to actually have more flexibility in how they did their adverts and get more buy-in across the rest of the business on that. So I've talked about a few different case studies on how our customers got started with CDP and Agile One. You don't need to go for a big bang. You don't need to bring everything in together, which can take a very long time. We're talking about just bringing in a few data points at the beginning by understanding those business needs and what's going to give you the biggest benefit moving forward. And Clever Age and Acquia can absolutely help you with that. Clever Age absolutely talk about the strategy and everything behind it and how you can work together to do that. And Acquia, with the Agile One platform as part of our digital experience platform, can help you enable to do that through the use of technology. So I'm going to pass across quickly to Yvonne to wrap up a bit about Clever Age and how they can help. But I just want to finish off by talking about by mentioning that Acquia, of course, Agile One is just part of our solution in terms of that CDP. And a real benefit of joining Acquia is that they do have a proper CDP as part of their digital experience platform. To me, it's the real missing piece. If you have a good CMS, marketing automation, you have the personalization and analytics, the CDP, a proper CDP is really the heart of that brings it all together. So with that, thanks for listening. I'm going to pass across to Yvonne briefly to close up on his side. But if there's any Q&A, please do let us know. Or if we're going to run out of time now, then you can see our contact details and you can speak to us anytime. We're always open. Thanks a lot. Yvonne, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. And please do not hesitate to raise your questions through the Q&A just as I'm closing this up. I think I really liked the Tony's approach on resolving, very clear use case. A lot of our clients say, yeah, I really believe, I think I need to replace my old CRM with the CDP. But I don't know exactly, I think, how it's going to fit with my existing, marketing automations, existing data warehouse, etc. And the most important thing is really to find the few use case, practical use case that Tony went through, whether it's ROI promotions, whether it's bringing, targeting offline, sales. And we did recently a POC on one very specific use case around conversions from the abandoned cart. We know that 82 or 84 or 87, depending on case, carts are just sitting in your funnels, but be able to collect, I think, those informations of identify user, non-identify users, behaviorals, and properly segment and retarget those users to increase the conversion and the sales. Just few percent of that will drastically, change the picture of your sales output. So this is a very concrete case. And as Tony mentioned, you don't have to start with a big bang. You can start with a CDP POC with one or two very specific use case that prove the models. That helps you and your management to ensure that you're going to the right directions and making the right investments. So we definitely are with Tony and his team around to answer any further questions, take you through a much more detailed use case or explaining how we run those POCs and implement those platforms. Feel free to reach us anytime. Okay, and you have both of us in both locations, me in Hong Kong and Tony in Singapore. So we both stuck because of the COVID-19 in those two locations, but you have a rep in those two major hubs in Asia. So that's important.
Absolutely.
Rachel, thanks very much. I will hand over to you if there is any questions from the Q&A.
So if anyone has any more questions, please submit them in the Q&A tab now. Otherwise, thank you all for attending. The slides and the recording of this webinar will be posted on our website and also sent to you via email within the next 48 hours. So be sure to look out for that. Thank you guys for your time. Goodbye.
Thank you very much and speak soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Thanks. Bye.